Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal branding and business development company. I want to take you on a journey that takes another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal story, business conversations, and tips to improve your personal brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand podcast series, you will be able to differentiate yourself from the competition and allow you to build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build trust, and reflect who you are. Developing your 5-star personal brand is a great way to demonstrate your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh, spelled M-C-G-A-U-G-H, at 5-star BDM, B for brand, D for development, M for masters.com. Now let's begin with our next 5-star episode on Follow the Brand. Happy holidays and Happy New Year. I am your host, Grant McGaugh of the Follow the Brand podcast. We have had a fantastic year in our inaugural launch since June 2021. I want to thank all of my guests who took the time to appear and share meaningful insights on personal branding and business development. We developed Season 2 to empower our audience by listening to industry experts share knowledge, experiences, and opportunities to advance their careers and business. Leadership coaching and confidence can be had by taking the time to invest in your professional growth. I encourage you to seek out professionals who understand your career and can help you to the next phase of your life. Remember, it is never too late to make a change in your career. Position yourselves by acquiring the skill sets that fill the requirements for achievement. In this recap episode, my podcast producer, Daniela, Gilet, and I recap what we learned from each show. Some guests tell a story of resilience, overcoming the odds in the face of significant challenges. At the same time, others give direction as a trusted advisor. The series is designed for working professionals. Without building reciprocal, solid business relationships, it cannot be easy to reach your goals. That's why we encourage business development strategies to advise you through the pitfalls that come along the path to success. Whether you're starting a new business, career, or struggling to grow your existing one, a business development strategy can be a great idea. Strategic planning is at the core of business development services from our show sponsor, 5-Star BDM. Through the Follow the Brand podcast, 5-Star BDM creates long-term value, focusing on differentiation as one of the crucial steps to growing your business or career. Thank you for listening, and remember, we are building a 5-star brand that you can follow. Welcome, everyone. And I want to first of all thank all of you for listening to the Follow the Brand podcast. We started this back in June of 2021. Here we are at the end of the year. And a lot of times I really don't put a lot of stats out there for people. I think stats are important. It's a way of measurement, but I measure the one-to-one conversation, the one-to-one audience that listens to Follow the Brand. Those are the people that I want to engage with. You are the people that I want most to gain the most out of these episodes, to learn more about personal branding, learn more about business development. And now we're pivoting into career development. But we've now reached 2,000 downloads across all the different podcast stations. And this is wonderful. And we're just, the trajectory is just going up and up and up. And I want to thank my team for doing that. If you remember Daniela, Gilet, she does a lot of the podcast productions. And I encourage anyone that's interested in podcasting, if they're looking to produce their own show, seek us out. Just send us an email and ask us about, first of all, what your project entails. We'll definitely consult with you, and then we'll give you pricing. We'll do all the things that you're going to be able to do to build your podcast from the beginning of the ideation of the podcast all the way to creation, all the way to production. Matter of fact, her husband does a lot of the cover art. And I'm sure some of you are just like me. I can't wait to see the next episode and the cover, because it's almost like an album dropping, right? What is this cover going to look like? This is going to be awesome. And a lot of our guests, they say the same thing, and they just love the cover arts. They love the quotations that come out. They love the overall production that we do. And you see, from time to time, we'll do videos. We will do, obviously, all the cover arts. We'll do a lot of different things. And in this season, during the business development season, we went ahead and produced 4 Follow the Brand TV shows. And you can see those on YouTube. So go ahead and Google that as YouTube on Follow the Brand. And you can even Google 5-star, I think it's called, was it 5-star, build a 5-star brand that you can follow. If you actually Google that now, I think it's 5-star, build a 5-star brand, or 5-star brand that you can follow.
Yeah.
And we'll actually come up. There you go, Daniela. We'll actually come up. I think we're the 2nd or 3rd in the Google feed. And that shows a lot for our SEO prowess that we've put together that has made us very recognized in the space of podcasting and personal branding and also business development. So we're going to recap right now our season 2, which is a big focus on business development. And Daniela is going to help me with this because, again, she listens to every single podcast. She streamlines everything. She makes it the best voice quality or audio quality that can happen. So I really appreciate that. And I appreciate her. She's actually elevated her brand to such a level. I don't know if you've been seeing her at all on some of the social media feeds, but she's been nominated on certain platforms like the Nasi, Florida, where she's recognized as a woman of distinction in her work as a data scientist. I would call her. She's a data scientist as well as an entrepreneur. So I'd like to bring Daniela up and just let's recap season 2. What are you thinking right now?
Let's do it. Well, Grant, thank you again for giving me an opportunity to kind of meet you behind the scenes and kind of talk more about some of these episodes. I think that season 2 was really a great season. And what I'm noticing is that with each new season comes new voices that allows us to really understand the ethos of brand development and how we can really become more confident in ourselves. So let's go ahead and jump into some of the guests that we had for the show.
Oh, man. First, we're going to go to what I talked about a little earlier, that we're starting to do more productions. And the very first one, it was a pilot. We call it a pilot. That was Black Men Are Unbreakable. We had about 5 different individuals on that particular episode talking about their upcoming event that took place in November. What did you think about that episode?
I felt that it was a great episode because it really highlighted the support that Black men need within this space, right? And there is one individual, and I can't think of his name at the moment. He referenced another economist who was kind of talking about the different dynamics that exist within the Black culture as it pertains to wealth generation. I'll make sure to kind of tag that particular individual's name in the show notes, but it was just a great episode that talked about mental health, especially for Black men. It's something that is not commonly discussed, right? I think that many people shy away from this particular topic because, again, it's not something that we were raised with, but being that they're in the position of shedding light and giving information is just a good point to be in, right? And I really hope that their agenda in terms of helping Black men through their struggles can be propelled and expanded upon in the years to come.
Absolutely. It was a great show. Loved doing it. We had Foster Expose on that show, and he brought it to light. And to your point, leadership we have to step behind the scenes a lot of times. You see people, they're very successful. You see them, they're getting promotions, they're getting a lot of light, but you don't see what's happening in the background and what it takes to, first of all, get to that level, and then to maintain that level. And then at some points in time that you lose that spotlight and what that is like. So if you've got leadership and coaching, that was what that episode was like for me. Leadership and coaching, and to take advantage of it. And there are professionals that are out there that you can engage with. And those first consultations don't cost you any money. So don't make, finance or dollars, a barrier. You can have that first consultation. You can work some things out, but you can seek out the gentlemen that were in that particular episode. Black Men Are Unbreakable was a fantastic show. It's one of the highest ratings that we got during the season. And then we pivoted over to Tabitha Ball, who's now the president of Nassau, Florida. She hails out of Jacksonville. What do you think about the little girl from Pensacola?
Well, I've had the pleasure of meeting Tabitha, I think maybe once so far, and it's because of Nassau, Florida. I really enjoyed her expressing basically the tenets of who she is and how she is working towards amplifying her brand. And she did mention that she was planning on reaching out to you to have conversations about that. But for me, what I really gathered from that was more insight into what she does professionally and the narrative that she wants to drive for Nassau, Florida for her presidency. Which is, to me, servitude, right? Using your experience, using the values that you have to really serve others and really propel the mission of Nassau, Florida. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much what I gathered from that. What about you? What did you gather from it?
The big thing I took from listening to Tabitha is that she was in a particular role for a long period of time. I think it was like 25 years. She was just kind of a behind the desk kind of contributor. And then she got that fire to move it forward. She got the education, she got her, degrees, and then she got her opportunities by, making a pivot to other organizations that saw her light and took advantage of it. And then her trajectory up to now the chief operations officer, I think it's a great story for people to listen to, no matter what you're doing right now or what you have been doing. That's one of the things I call that a rebranding episode that can occur, for you. Just because you've been doing a certain, type of job or a certain type of task for a number of years doesn't mean you can't do something different. And you can excel in the things that really where your passion lies. And I think that's what I got out of Tabitha. She had a lot of passion and she got the opportunity to show that. And I really appreciate that particular episode, for real. And then it brings me to the third episode, which was Andy Peak. And the reason why Andy Peak was so good, I loved it, is because I was able to use that as one of our Follow the Brand TV episodes. And he is a great communicator. And I wanted to get it from you, like from someone from the outside industry, out of the tech industry, totally outside of that. So what did you think about that episode, Daniela?
Well, I think that, all of the episodes are great, and being able to tap into someone's mind who's actually in the technology and data space is great because they're able to talk about the various initiatives that they have that's going on and the ways in which they plan on leveraging data to really amplify healthcare if they're in that space, or fintech if they're in that space. I think that, yes, Andy Peak's episode was great because it really highlighted the benefits of technology and the ways he's using it now to really make a difference in his industry. So.
Absolutely. And that we all are taking advantage of these types of technologies because of COVID, that we've had to pivot to this digital touch. We've got to touch each other digitally. And one of the things I got out of his episode is that it doesn't replace in-person meetings, but what you can do is have more frequent meetings. And because you can have more frequent meetings, you can have that hybrid approach that when you do see yourself, physically or in person, you bring all that to the forefront. And I think that's wonderful in the AV world that he is a part of. And Logitech is on fire right now as a company. And he really exuded that. And I wanted to have the opportunity to tell that story without question. So when we got to the next episode, right? For like he was, I call the immersive communicator, which definitely you immerse yourself. Who's not immersing themselves in Zoom these days? I think we're all becoming savvy. Whether we're using it on your phone, it's not even just Zoom. There's other platforms, but we're definitely using the digital world bigger and bigger. So then we get to this world of Roy Hawkins Jr. What do you think about that episode with Roy?
Oh, goodness. It was a phenomenal episode, amongst other episodes as well. I really walked away from that episode feeling as if Mr. Hawkins Jr. is someone who truly cares, who is a strong believer of contributing to the wellness and development of other people. And even though he is a very busy individual and busy professional, he still finds the time to give back to others, especially young careerists. And he also implores these early careerists to really find their light, become a part of organizations that will pour into you. And I love the story that he shares about his involvement with NASI and how when he joined NASI, it's the people within this community that truly elevated him and created doors, for him to walk through. And so it's just a great story that just talks about how communities are important and how it's vital to really invest in other people who are coming up in the professional space.
Without question. And Roy said some things that I think anyone listening to that episode can take to heart. He talked about branding. He said, brand yourself. If people did not know who he was, his visibility outside of a smaller circle, he would not have been able to make that transition from being in Miami, Florida, all the way to North Carolina, right? So the name of that episode is The Opportunity to Reimagine. And Roy did that. He just reimagined himself doing the things like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I becoming a hospital leader? What is the point of doing this? And he exuded that servant leadership attitude. And he wanted to make sure that he could do the most he could for the people that could benefit from his leadership. And I thought that was wonderful. And he's part of a fantastic team. We're going to miss him down in Florida, but he always calls this home anyway. So we'll see him definitely, from time to time. I can't wait to see him in person as well. But love that episode and the thing that he exuded the most. Make sure that your passion matches your purpose. Or you can flip that around, that your purpose matches your passion. So if you can combine those two things together in your own world, you can leverage a very powerful strength. And I love that about his particular episode. So then we get to something a little different, off the beaten path with Tom Jordan. Purple squirrels with yellow sweaters. What did you think about Tom?
Yeah, so Tom's episode was actually very emotional for me. Just kind of listening to his story and how, again, he has this deep, earnest desire to help people become a better version of themselves. So I really walked away from this episode just feeling, right? It's truly important for us to tap into ourselves, to invest in ourselves, so that whenever we show up in the world, it's in a meaningful way. That's the high level for me.
I tell you, and I'm listening to Tom, and I just use this talking to another individual. I love his analogy about the azimuth, and that when he was in the Army, because life is perilous. I think if you went to most people and asked you, like, well, if you had to describe life, would you say it's kind of peril? It's a lot of peril in life. There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of challenge, a lot of things you have to work through to get to your goals. And what he used was a process. And the process of utilizing the azimuth, which is kind of like a bow and arrow, more or less. It was a powerful instrument. But that he would shoot that out from point A to point B. And then he would shoot it out there in the darkness during his training as an Army Ranger, that was his guide point. So he would make a point in time that he would then navigate to get to his goal. And I think if we look at, sometimes we don't know where to start. We're starting out in a business, or we're looking at starting in toward a career. I'm a manager now. I want to be a director. How do I, shoot that azimuth to reach that target? And then what are the ways to navigate, to that target along the way? I think he really exuded that. And you're right. He had a lot of emotion, a lot of empathy. He's a billion-dollar producer. He said a lot of things like that. He's been wonderful. I still stay in touch with him. So good guy. If you haven't listened to the episode, I definitely encourage you to do so. That was in season 2, episode 5. And then we get to another person with another lot of empathy. A lot of people we talked to this season had a lot of empathy. Harley Ortiz, who works over at Jackson Health System, where ironically Roy just came from. You listen to Harley Ortiz, you don't know him at all. What did you get out of that particular episode?
I really liked his journey to his current standing. And I recall that he talked about at one point in his life, he was working at a doctor's office at night, and then at the same time pursuing his degree at FAU or FIU. And so I enjoyed listening to his story because I know struggle. Like, for me, when I transitioned to Florida almost 10 years ago, I still can't believe it. It was a struggle for me because I came here by myself without my parents, was living with extended family, and it just wasn't an easy journey compared to my peers. And so I just enjoyed hearing his transition and throughout his career, and just the love and the empathy that he has in really serving people and helping people, and the plans that he has in using data to really spearhead some great initiatives. And so this is just one of those things where it's like when you hear the struggle that someone kind of went through, right? And how they kind of walked away from it a brighter version of themselves. I think it's always wonderful to see people succeed.
Oh man, you hit the nail on the head with that. And the thing that I got out of it is that, like before in the tech industry, if you got certain certifications, that gave you your path forward. I got my Microsoft certification, I got my Cisco networking certification, and that was all you needed. In today's world, you need the education badge also. You're going to need that BA behind you. You're going to need, a master's degree behind you to get you to where you want to go. Again, to that azimuth. Where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself in 2, 3, 5 years? Harley saw himself as being a chief technology officer. So he's shooting to that point in time and building out his brand to become exactly that, the CTO of a healthcare organization. So I definitely see that he will be successful in that endeavor. And I love for people that tune into the show to get something out of it. Understand when you look at your own journey and where you're at a point in time, where do you want to go? What is your goal? How do you plan to get there? What is your strategy? Do you have one? Those are the things that you need to seriously listen to yourself and do some self-reflection to know exactly where you want to go and why do you want to get there. What service are you going to perform? So from there, we stay in this data world, right? We go from where Harley was, and then we get into this living at the intersection of healthcare and technology. And you really start seeing this entrepreneurial spirit come out. What would you think about Kristen Molaster?
It's actually one of my favorite episodes, honestly, because this particular professional exuded confidence and encouraged you to do the same. And I love how he implores individuals to really share their knowledge without hesitation. And how to, like, he talks about the ways in which you can actually optimize and monopolize on your knowledge. And he talks about the ways in which he's doing that through his speaking engagements, through his contributions in books and writing articles. And I really walked away from this experience just feeling like, wow, if I know something, I think I should really monopolize off of it, right? Of course, for the betterment of other people and organizations. But yes, Mr. Mallister really taught us the importance of just not being afraid to showcase what you know, and just be confident in that.
Like, what do you say? If you don't toot your own horn, there is no music.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
And I love that. And he was a part of our hymns event that we had here in South Florida. He was one of the keynote speakers at Integrate, and he is a phenomenal talent, very knowledgeable. And then I learned a lot about healthcare in other countries, how they do things, how it's different from where we are in the United States, where we have advantages and where we have disadvantages. And I thought that was just the curiosity. When you talk to somebody that's international and they've been to other places, they're outside of your box. The people always, that's a term, right? Think outside the box. Well, when you go outside of a different country, in several different countries, you can see a lot of different things. You can see where certain, people talk about, well, in Germany, let's say they have socialized medicine. Yeah, but it's a smaller country. It's easier to manage. It's different. When you have a country of 300 million, like we do in the United States, there's more caveats to it, especially if you've been used to doing it a certain way. But there are certain things you could definitely take, advantage of, and that we should, especially in the world of technology and how to utilize it to improve accessibility to healthcare. And he's doing that at a high level. And he also gives you that back end look at being an entrepreneur. What does it take? How do you brand yourself? How do you tell your story and tell it often so people can take advantage of what you're doing at a high level? So I really appreciate that particular episode, without question. This episode is brought to you by 5-Star BDM. 5-Star BDM is a professional consulting and advisory group keenly focused on business development services for small to mid-sized businesses and entrepreneurs. Although every business is unique, they often share challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. Services include process improvement in operations, digital strategy and transformation, business intelligence, digital marketing, and personal branding. Our 5-Star business and personal branding company has helped a number of professionals and organizations to optimize and grow. The result is more business, more opportunities, better reach, positive outcomes. Please visit www.5starbdm.com to learn more and view all the episodes of Follow the Brand. And then we get into another, how to value your data. Dr. Alexis Portero from the island of St. Kitts. So what do you think about Dr. Alexis?
Yeah, he was also really great. I think that his show was very helpful for business owners who own data and don't really think about their vulnerability in terms of not having enough protection around their data and not being aware of the various implementations that need to take place to really protect them and the organization. So I really just felt like, yes, he's a data privacy champion. He's the person that wants to make sure that you're thinking about these things. And I also loved how he highlighted the law of reciprocity, the law of giving back to others, and it will be given back to you. And the way in which he mentors individuals within the community, I think it's a beautiful story. And I think that he is also a beautiful person. And that was made evident throughout his conversation with you. What did you get from it?
Oh, my God. Well, Dr. Alexis, I've known him, for a few years now. And I learned more and more about him. Like, here's the key word. The key word is pivot. how do you pivot? He went to school to be a marketing major, so that's what he was going to school for. He came from the island of St. Kitts, and then he, gets into a program, gets to go to a school here in Florida. And because he's helping out on a project with some other tech people, he starts learning more about cybersecurity. He says, and he does a comparison. Hey, am I going to make more money doing marketing, or am I going to be more successful learning data? And then remember, this was 20 years ago or so. And he chose cybersecurity as his path forward. And then it was wonderful how he got, and it was intentional about using mentors. He talks about Fernando Martinez, someone that he was working with at Broward Health, and that helped him, that he pursued that. And he pursued working with other organizations like ISACA, or organizations like HIMSS, organizations like NACI, to further not only, his own particular network, but able to give back. And he did that at such a high level. So if you have not listened to that particular episode, I certainly do. He's got some tips how to secure your data that are paramount, especially in today's world of cybersecurity, without question. So from there, and we stay on this track, we're talking about data. We're talking about the truth in data. Now, David Wilcox, he is an EMR expert. I mean, he works for a very large company at Cerner, but he's written a book because he's a nurse at heart. What did you think about David Wilcox?
Yeah, also one of my favorites as well. Dr. Wilcox is also a nursing informatics professional and has that administrator experience, has that nursing experience, and wrote this phenomenal book that I ended up purchasing, and it's called How to Avoid Being a Victim of the American Healthcare System, a Patient's Handbook for Survival. And, he's one of those people that I would deem as resourceful, meaning that he has provided you with this guide on the ways in which you need to navigate healthcare, from if you're admitted to the hospital to when you're discharged. And in his book, I'm not going to spoil it. In his book, he kind of shares some personal examples of people that have transitioned onto the other side, and the ways in which, he wished that he was prepared to address that particular situation in a better way, and is really giving us this free resource. Well, not free, but he's giving us this resource to really help us in being very wise in the ways in which we navigate healthcare. And being that I recently lost my grandmother to what we believe is medical malpractice, this book is really becoming, very, very handy, because it's kind of gleaning insight into the ways in which hospitals are being rated, the ways in which providers are being rated, and what you can do to avoid certain mishaps in the medical space. So overall, great book.
Well, without question, he brings to light a reality that a lot of us do not know. That talk about data. This is data that you need to know, that the third leading cause of death in the United States is medical errors. Wrap your head around that. Wrap your head around that. That's important. We need to change that. We need to own that if you're in the industry, and we need to change that fact. And there's ways of doing it. And I think awareness and knowledge is big. You need to take advantage. I mean, before me growing up, you just go to the doctor and you just let them take over, do everything. You don't really have a whole lot of say so in your care. Well, as we've learned that, yes, you do. And that's what David Wilcox talks about. Yes, you do. You need to understand what your role is and what your rights are when you're going through a hospital stay, and where you're at and what you need to do to protect yourself. So very, very, very important. I encourage everyone to take a look at that particular or tune into that particular episode, glean what you can from that, so you can understand the truth that's in the data. And then, in talking about that, we then pivot to, which is one of my favorite episodes as well, as we go to a chief marketing officer. He's over at ChinMed, very good provider of value-based care. Wonderful. And he's in this episode called "How Do You Measure Success?" And I want to because you didn't know Mark. I don't think you knew him at all. What did you get out of that particular episode, Daniela?
This was actually throughout the entire season one of my favorite episodes because it really hit a very delicate place. There are three things that I walked away from. The first item has to do with the way in which Mr. Dickinson defined a brand. And he said that a brand is defined as what people can expect from you. That's powerful, right? It's like, what can people expect from you? He also mentioned, how do you spend your time? Who do you spend your time with? And again, what can people expect from you? And the last item that he mentioned has to do more with career opportunities. He said, have a plan, but be flexible in accepting new opportunities. And I feel like for me as a mid-level careerist, I was always so focused on just getting to one particular goal. And now that I'm in this very open-minded space, I'm receptive to new opportunities, even though I have my plan, right? But that kind of hit home for me because it's like I'm currently in that space. And I think a lot of people are very reluctant to accept new opportunities. They're very reluctant to position themselves in a way to be recognized. And Mr. Dickinson is telling you it's okay. You know, sometimes people will see you and they'll see things in you that you can't even see for yourself. And he used a personal example where his CEO reached out to him and just said, hey, I see these qualities in you. How do you feel about leading this particular vertical within the organization? So it's always great to kind of hear these wonderful stories, these wonderful transformations, and just the gems that he shared was just very meaningful. And I also think that the work that his daughter and his wife is doing within the fem health space, they have a company called ThermaBand. I think it's a very great project that they're undertaking, and the success in which they're receiving and experiencing is just great. So this was really one of my favorite episodes.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I learned some things, and I talked to Mark. I've known him 4 years now. Great guy, from the Philadelphia area. And this is what I learned, that he actually went to school for finance. He was a finance and business major. He's graduated from the Harvard School of Business, and he's in marketing. And I'm asking him, so how do you make that transition? How do you pivot from, finance? I see you you should be on that track to be a CFO, chief financial officer, not a CMO. And he clarified that during the episode in saying that there's a lot of metrics. There's a lot of things you measure in marketing, that it's not all the creative things that you see, the content that's out there. There's a lot of nuances behind the scenes and metrics and measurements that go into marketing that made him ideal for that particular position. And then how he also said how he showed up every day, to get the notice from his CEO to see him in that role. It's just the way he was showing up every day. Like, wow, you're not. I know you're good at numbers, Mark, but I think you might have a life in marketing. And he's been doing it for 20 years. He never got back into that finance role as a leader in finance, but definitely been leading in a marketing role. And then he also talks about just the company and what they do. And value-based care is the model going forward in healthcare instead of the fee for service. Because what's your mission and your purpose? What are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to help people to be healthier so they do not get sick? And if they are sick, you want to prevent them to get sicker. So that's what value-based care is all about. And I truly, truly love that. And you kind of exude that through some of the episodes that we go through. So I encourage everyone to tune in to that particular episode. And then that brings us to the blueprint for your success. As we get deeper and deeper into this entrepreneurial world, this business development world, you're starting to get some of the building blocks, and then how you move forward with your own endeavors, whether it's for business or your career. What is the blueprint for your success with Aaliyah Aaron, the CEO of NI Hub? What did you think of that, about that particular episode?
Yeah, I think that this episode is very tailored to entrepreneurs and employees who are wanting to transition into a work for self position. I think that Aaliyah just creates a community for people who are wanting to learn the ways in which they can really amplify their ideas and become equipped with the tools in which they need to become successful. So for me, this was just more of like a learning more about her organization, the different members that she has within her boards, and the resources that she has for entrepreneurs, right? Especially when it comes to her boot camp and all these other things. It's just really meaningful for people who are wanting to kind of learn how to grow their business.
I would have a question. And she allowed me to be a mentor for two people in her last cohort, right? This was the Horatio Alger cohort that they partnered with. So I talked to these two individuals. One, they had totally different businesses, right? And one was doing a business on image consulting, like fashion image consulting. And the other was doing another on social, I wouldn't call it social determinants of health, but she's working to help people that have disabilities that do not know how to apply for disability assistance through the government or state government agencies. So she's providing that service, whether it's a training service or helping the actually a lot of homeless people have mental health issues. They qualify for disability, but they just don't know how to traverse the system in order to qualify. So she helps them do that. So she brought me in to be a mentor to help them to develop their business, help them to develop their business plan, help them to understand their pitch. And I was able to do that. I was honored to do that because that's what I do at 5-Star BDM. People don't know exactly. We do a lot with personal branding, and I've helped a number of individuals to improve upon their brand. I do a lot when it comes to strategy and a lot when it comes to execution as well, because I've got a 25 year background in just business development and helping people do that. So I know what it takes to be able to pitch an idea, to present yourself, and then having these statistics and having the backbone or the back office to be able to sustain your business. So there's a lot of enlightenment that was shared. They brought me in, put me as a part of their team, and it was very, very good. So I really liked the episode in general and being able to be part of what Aaliyah is doing. And I highly encourage anyone that's looking for entrepreneurial pursuits in a startup to be a part of an accelerator type of program to listen to that episode as well. Which then brings us to one of my own clients that I work with, Bernadette Aubrey. And she just launched her business, Gateway Healthcare Solutions. And I want to get Daniela. So you didn't know Bernadette before. So then you got tuned in to what she's doing. What did you think about her?
Actually, I met Bernadette before, and I speak to her currently, believe it or not. Yeah, so I know who she is, and just listening to this podcast episode, I just learned a little bit more about her professional background. And now that she's accumulated all of these, gems and knowledge around healthcare coding and quality improvement, she wants to contribute to other organizations now. She wants to help companies really identify the ways in which they can either increase compensation for their providers or save money for the organization. So it's just a great initiative that she has right now. And I'm just looking for ways in which I can position myself to help her grow her business. So it was just more of an informational session for me. And I think others will agree as well.
Oh, yes. And what you don't see is the back end, it's the packaging. What I call that that she was working as in the business in benefit claims, right? She'd been doing it for 20 plus years. She had gone through different transitions through her career, and she just made it to that point where, you know what, I want to do my own business. I want to have my own business and provide services that help others understand, especially when they get into a contractual payer agreement. She's an expert at that. And now she's able to excel. So what I gave her was first is a strategy. She had to have a brand strategy. How is she going to be able to promote herself and to package everything in a way that is going to first bring people in and then really put a highlight on her expertise. So we put together a brand strategy. And then in that strategy, we put together a brand style guideline. That's going to give her logo. That's going to give her all her colors. That's going to give her fonts. It's going to give her individuality as a business. And it's very, very important to start from these sections first. First, have a strategy, then build out your brand, your brand guidelines. People make mistakes. They jump right into building out a website without even having any idea what they're really trying to accomplish from a strategic standpoint. And then what are your colors? Who are you? It's not about just colors. Like, who are you? What are you trying to accomplish? And there's certain things, there's certain nuances that color schemes and font layouts and logos all bring together for you. And then we took all that information, we built out the next step of that was a professional video. A lot of times you've seen a lot of these productions that I'll do stock videos for people and I'll personalize those videos. But when you do a production video, that's on site, that's recorded on site, that's putting together your story. You have to have your founder story. You've got to have your business story. It's got to exude from the customer perspective, that customer testimonial, put all that into a professionalized video. And we did that for Gateway Healthcare Solutions. And then now we've got these assets. We heard about Mark Dickinson talk about assets. Now you've got assets. Now you take those assets and you put them into a website production, right? And so when you go to Gateway Healthcare Solutions and you go to her website, you're going to see a fantastic production. It's an experience as you go through and you see all the different facets of what she's able to do. And you have the look and feel of a professional business that's ready to help you to engage. That was that process. Now you're going to start getting into promotions and campaigns, which is the last step of that. But if you follow the process, and that's what we do at 5-Star BDM to help you first strategize, right? Understand your budgets. What do you want to accomplish? So you understand what your investment is going to be. And then you start the process of actually acquiring that. So that brings us to that winner's mindset, right? Which concludes our business development series in season 2 with Mr. Reggie Grant, who's a business strategist, ex-NFL, retiree that's still doing business. I thought he was a lot of energy. What did you get out of Mr. Reggie Grant?
So what I will say is that Mr. Grant definitely gave me energy that I never knew I needed because he was very excited and you can just feel his enthusiasm about everything that he's doing right now. And so I was awake the entire time, I promise. So that was really just a great highlight for me. But I actually walked away from this recording with 3 important quotes that he mentioned. And this is one of my other favorite.
Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal branding and business development company. I want to take you on a journey that takes another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal stories, business conversations, and tips to improve your personal brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand podcast series, you will be able to differentiate yourself from the competition and allow you to build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build trust, and reflect who you are. Developing your 5-star personal brand is a great way to demonstrate your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh, spelled McGaugh, at 5-star BDM, B for brand, D for development, M for masters.com. Now let's begin with our next 5-star episode on Follow the Brand.
Recordings as well. So the first item is, he says, position yourself to amplify others. The second item is, everyone wants to elevate someone who is trying. That was really, really good. And the last item is, you have to find your own truth and tell your own story. And this is aligned to something that you've always stated, Grant, to me personally. It's like, you have to find your voice. You have to know your story so well, and you have to own that story, right? That's where the confidence comes from. And so Mr. Grant just kind of highlighted that again to me, that you just have to know your story, own your story, and tell your truth, right? Because when you're honest, people can't destroy you, because you're honest, you're telling your truth, you're standing in your truth. So it was a very great episode.
No one could tell your story like you. No one. When I listen to Reggie Grant, he's the pitch master. You talk about pitch. Right. People say, what are the tenets of personal branding? Well, pitch is definitely one of them. And when you listen to someone else give their pitch, you're like, wow, it's not about what they said. It's about how you felt afterward. Did you feel energized? Did you feel knowledgeable? Did you want to listen to it again so you can glean everything that's coming out of that? I mean, Reggie Grant lives in a time that there was not a lot of Black professionals. He had done his career in football and sports, and he realized early and often that this was not going to be the end game, that he needed to do other things in his life to propel himself forward. He got into education. This guy is all over the place. So with education and entrepreneur pursuits, different, health IT projects that he was a part of, different business adventures that he was a part of. This guy is an adventure. You read the Reggie Grant story, it's not one-dimensional at all. And he's doing a lot of things. And I love the way you say how he just looks to help others. If I'm helping others, I know others are going to help me. And that's getting back to a model. You look way back in the season 1 and talk about having that personal code. What is your code? And do you really live by it? Because you have a code, whether you realize it or not. Your everyday existence, how you live your life every day is your code. You can say you're doing this, but your actions say you're doing that. And that is your brand. And if those are not aligned, that's where correction needs to take place, right? So the purpose that I like to say, why are you doing this Follow the Brand show, Grant? What was the point of this? I'm highlighting individual stories that I think are the most powerful things probably on this planet. Is your story and how those stories help others to move forward. So whether it's from a personal brand perspective, whether it's a business development perspective, now we're moving into career development. And you're going to see the final part of this series. We're going to tap out of season 4, then we're going to start all over. Is going to be in financial empowerment. So when you go through this series, everything we're doing is part of a process that you're going to start getting into what I call coursework. What is the 5-star BDM coursework that we're going to then begin to roll out in 2022? So you'll have the opportunity to participate, whether you want one-on-one coaching or you want to be part of a class, you'll be able to do that. You're starting to get the understanding, the look and feel for what 5-star BDM is really all about and how it can help you professionally, whether it's in your career, whether it's in your finances, whether it's in your business, and of course, your personal brand to be more successful. So before I conclude, I want to have Daniela give some highlights because she helps me in a lot of these endeavors on what we just stated as far as the purpose of 5-star BDM and Follow the Brand.
I think you did a wonderful job in just kind of summarizing everything from this season. And personally, I just believe that we created this quilt of stories from professionals who have started from the bottom and is making a name for themselves in their respective industries. And at the same time, despite of their success, is finding ways to give back to others. And so I think that that's the highlight, right? Is that as you grow, as you evolve, as you succeed in your space, it's also important to kind of reach back and help others build their brand and give them confidence to really stand in their truth and own their stories.
Well, with that said, we're going to conclude 2021. Get ready for 2022. Happy New Year to you all. And we look forward to all of you tuning in to all the new episodes of Follow the Brand at www.5starbdm. That's B for brand, D for development, and for masters.com. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, guys.